equation pertaining to your heat transfer, and then what are the different mechanisms of your heat transfer. In your topic answers only heat transfer is there, so there are 3 forms of heat transfer which is already known to you from your 10+2 level, that is conduction, convection and radiation. So we will try to define all those modes of heat transfer, and then we will try to establish equations pertaining to those forms of heat transfer and try to derive what will be the heat transfer rate for a particular situation. Then identify the mechanisms of heat transfer that occur simultaneously in practice. That is what we say multi-mode heat transfer. It's not a single mechanism which will occur all the time. You may have combination of different forms of heat transfer. So we will try to discuss if you have simultaneously more than one form of heat transfer is going on, then how to derive those governing equations. Then develop an awareness of the cost associated with heat losses, because most of the industries, the objective is to convert your heat energy into a mechanical form of energy, and from that mechanical form, in generally it transferred into electrical form. Now, whenever we are transforming, the efficiency of the system decreases because of the losses of the heat from the equipment. So if there is a loss, then the efficiency of the system will drop down. Then if you want to minimize that loss, then first we should know that where there is a loss, heat loss is going on and how it is affecting your cost. I don't think cost calculation is part of your evaluation. So only we will know that where are the losses which are possible and how to restrict that losses. Then coming to solving different heat transfer problems. Again, your syllabus is beginning with 1D heat conduction, then transient heat conduction, then multidimensional heat conduction, then Finn's extended surface, like that. So this particular problem, this particular subject is associated with more number of numericals. So what you have to do, you have to practice a little bit more so that you can get an exposure to how to solve different problems associated with your heat transfer. Now, just to distinguish between this thermodynamics and your heat transfer, now better to say that heat is a low grade of energy. So the form of energy that can be transferred from one system to the other only and if there is a difference of temperature. So that is what we say as heat, and thermodynamics is concerned with this amount of heat transfer as the system undergoes a process from one equilibrium state to other. So it gives you the quantity, but it is unable to give you the rate of heat transfer. That is, with respect to time, how this amount of heat transfer varies. That cannot be addressed with the help of your thermodynamics. So that's where thermodynamics fails to give you a solution, because most of the real life problems are transient problems. That is, the energy transfer changes with time. So what you have to do, you have to evaluate what is the rate of heat transfer from a system to the surrounding or vice versa. So that part is missing when you deal with your thermodynamics. So the transfer of energy as heat is always from high temperature, medium to low temperature. That's quite obvious. And the magnitude of heat transfer will be more if your temperature difference is more, and gradually dies away as the difference of temperature drops down, and at equilibrium, what we say that if both the bodies are of two mediums of same temperature, then there will be no further heat transfer. And in generally, there are three ways of heat transfer or three modes of heat transfer. That is conduction, convection, radiation. So in case of your conduction, there is a molecular energy transfer. In case of convection, the heat transfer is associated with a fluid flow. That is what we say that advection. So along with conduction, there is an advection, that is the fluid flow, which will augment your heat transfer, which is known as convection. Another mode of heat transfer is your radiation, where we do not require a medium, because in the first two cases we require a medium to heat transfer. In the third case, without medium also we can have a heat transfer, and the heat transfer is in the form of electromagnetic waves. So that sort of heat transfer is known as radiation. This particular radiation is associated with a particular frequency range. So that particular frequency range of energy transfer is known as your heat transfer. So all these three forms of heat transfer, all these three modes of heat transfer are possible in case of your transition of heat from one system to the other system. Now, this is one example which shows that where thermodynamics fails, heat transfer gives you a solution. Like for example, if you go by your figure 1, in this particular figure, it's an thermos flask or bottle where you are holding a hot coffee. Theoretically speaking, it is insulated. That means the temperature of the hot coffee should remain same for infinite number of time or for any time. But in reality, in generally, because of some heat losses, the temperature drops down. Now there, how much time it will take to drop down the temperature from one level to the other level, that part is not possible to address using your thermodynamic principle. And this second figure, it shows that if you are holding a hot coffee in the flask, then there is a heat transfer from the cup to the surrounding through the walls of your container. So the direction will be given by your heat transfer process, which says that heat will flow from the hot coffee to the surrounding or the cooler environment. So these are the things which are missing in case of your thermodynamics, which are unable to predict the direction, quantity with respect to time, and how much time it will take. Those things are missing, or we can say that those things are lacuna with respect to thermodynamics, which can be addressed with the help of your heat transfer. As such, there are a huge number of applications are there which are associated with your heat transfer. A few are represented or shown here. The first figure is with respect to a human body. Our human body is also known as one of heat engine. Because of your consumption of your food, minerals, energy is produced, and that energy is getting dissipated from our body to the surrounding, or sometimes from the surrounding to our body through the skin of your body. And within the body also, the energy gets transferred from the form of heat from one part to the other part. So that can be also modeled. Even few people are working in this particular area of heat transfer through a human body or human skin, where they are evaluating what is the amount of moisture drying from your skin, what is the rate of moisture which you are losing, that is what the cause of your dehydration. All such activity comes under your heat transfer of a human body. Pardon, please. Then comes your air conditioning system. In case of your air conditioning system, again, as you know that the objective is to maintain the room at a particular temperature and humidity, for which you are supposed to either extract or discharge heat to the system. In general, in Indian context, we have to remove the heat from the room, but the other way is also possible with air conditioning system. So there also there is a question of heat transfer takes place, how you can transfer the heat from one place to the other place, and the magnitude of your heat transfer. Then your heating system, where we transfer the steam from one place to the other for the heating purpose, or the hot water or hot air, all are possible. Electronic equipments. Now, because of this miniaturization of your electronic equipment, where you are putting a lot of circuits in a small space, because of which the rate of heat generation is increasing. Rate of heat generation means amount of energy per unit time is increasing. So because of which there is a possibility of deterioration of your performance of your electronic equipment. Then the again question comes into picture. If you want to increase the performance, you have to decrease the temperature. That means you have to extract the heat at a faster rate. So that is also a topic of discussion of your heat transfer. Then your power plants. These are the chimneys of your thermal power plant, where you have a heat transfer because of your flue gases, where we are discharging the gases to your surrounding, exhaust of your particular boiler. So in order to decrease the pollution as well as in order to decrease the temperature of the surrounding, this chimneys has to be designed properly so that we can minimize both of them, that is pollution point of view as well as your temperature point of view. That means we want to minimize the heat transfer to the surrounding. So that's why we have to design it, and that's why the shape is some sort of like this, parabolic in nature. Then refrigeration system, again here also the objective is to maintain the temperature at a particular value which is greater than that of your 0 degree but less than the surrounding. But chillers may be there where the temperature may be less than 0 degree, where you are getting ice formation. That means where again you have to extract the heat. So these are some of the applications of your heat transfer. Now some background with respect to this particular subject. Now people started about this heat transfer studies long back. They started with the concept of your kinetic theory, where they say that molecules are like some sort of a small balls and they are in motion, and because of which they possess some sort of kinetic energy, and this energy associated with random motion of atoms and molecules, when they collide with each other, they transfer the energy from one particular molecule to the other molecule in the form of heat. Then another theory came into picture, no doubt that's not existing nowadays, caloric theory, which says that heat is some sort of a motion of a fluid, and the fluid is massless, colorless, and odorless, means invisible. From one body to the other body, you can pour the heat from one body to the other body. That's what the concept was there. But later on, in the year 1843, when Joule come up with a concept saying that caloric theory is not at all the right way to analyze the heat transfer, then beyond that, nobody is using that particular concept of caloric theory to analyze heat transfer process. Nowadays, all the people, they are dealing with your heat transfer using this Joule's concept. So in case of your engineering problems of heat transfer, varieties of problems are available when you are going for the design of your heat exchanger. like refrigerator and your air conditioner is the best example of your heat exchanger. Even radiators in your automobile, boilers, that is the steam generating unit, condenser, radiator, heater, furnace, refrigerator, solar collector, all those things comes under the category of your heat transfer equipment. And if you want to design, you should know that what is the magnitude of heat transfer possible, what is the rate of heat transfer possible. So in order to design those things, we should know the magnitude calculation, how to calculate, the rate calculation. So that's why these heat transfer problems, what in generally engineering people are dealing, that is categorized into two groups. One is rating problem, another is sizing problem. In case of your rating problem, the objective is you have given a specified space, specified constraints. In the sense, let us say you know the temperature availability. Like for example, let us say if I want to cool something using my river water. So river water means the lower limit is fixed. Let us say 25-degree temperature is the temperature of the river water. And you're cooling something whose temperature is 50 degrees. That means what? Water temperature cannot go beyond 50 because you're cooling that particular substance whose temperature is 50. So here the temperature limits of the cooling water is fixed. Lower side is 25, upper side is 50. And let us say you have a space constraint which is already fixed, let us say. So in that particular space, if you have equipment where you are extracting heat using these limits of temperature, then what is the capacity which you can extract? That sort of a problem is known as your rating problem. Other one is sizing problem. Sizing problem is here they will give you what is the amount of heat transfer. Like for example, your electronic components. Like if you know the how many number of chips are there, how many number of circuits are there, and what is the amount of current passing through that, and if you know the resistance, everything, then at priori you know what is the amount of heat transfer. So once you know the amount of heat transfer, then the question comes into picture. If you know the amount of heat transfer, if you know the temperature limits, then what should be the size of that particular equipment? So that within that particular size, you can extract that much quantity of your heat. That is what we say as sizing problem. That means if you are going for a bigger size, that is good for you, but it's a waste of money because now competitive market is there. So if you're going for a bigger size equipment for the same purpose, then the cost will increase. So you cannot sustain yourself. At the same time, if you decrease the size less than the required size, then you may not able to extract the same quantity of heat from the object. Then your temperature of the body will increase, which further lead to your failure of your object. So that is also not good for you. So there the question comes, what should be the size of your equipment? So that sort of problem is known as your sizing problem. So in order to get these two types of designs, you may approach the problems in two varieties of ways. One is experimental method, other one is analytical method. In case of experimental method, that is the best one because whatever is happening, that is available or that is observed by the person itself. You can observe what is the outcome of that particular experiment. So you conduct the experiment, you got the results. That is evident. You cannot deny that one. So conducting an experiment for any particular problem is good enough, but the difficulty is the cost, the time, the equipment precision requirement in measuring those particular variables. So that's where the problem comes into picture, because industry, they want to manufacture varieties of equipments. If the same sort of equipment is there for lifelong of the industry, then there is no problem. They can conduct experiment. But the design of any particular object is changing day to day. It's not fixed for all the time. So when the design is changing, it's not possible to maintain or to conduct the experiment for all the designs. So that's why experimental approach is good one, but the difficulty is it's quite expensive, time consuming, and sometimes it is impractical also. Like for example, if I want to design a aircraft, now how to design that one and how to manufacture that, how to conduct experiment in my laboratory, that's not possible. And that too, how to get the real life conditions, like for example, flight is moving with Mach number of 0.1 or zero point 0.2, that much of velocity, you can go with real reference frame, but still you require that much of velocity. Blower should be there of big quantity. At the same time, you have to have sophisticated instruments to conduct that sort of experiment. So most of the time that is impractical. So that's why another approach is there. That is what we say theoretical approach or the analytical approach. That means what we will do, we will carry out a analysis purely based on your physics of the problem, which is governed by a set of governing equations, and we will try to solve those governing equations pertaining to that particular design. Then from that we will calculate what will be our variable quantities. So here we will lose some sort of an accuracy compared to the practical things, but still whatever results that we will obtain, that is ideally suited for your practical purposes. That's why this sort of approach is nowadays much more popular compared to your experimental approach. Because whenever we are conducting an experiment, there is a possibility of a failure. If it is a small sort of setup, you can bear the failure. But if it is a bigger size setup, you cannot bear that failure. But in case of your analytical approach or simulation part, computational part, if there is a failure also, that won't make that much of loss to the industry or the individual. So that's why nowadays most of the cases people are doing with analytical approach to solve the problems of your heat transfer. So that's the some sort of schematic mathematical modeling of the physical problem. That is how usually people are solving this. Like if you have a physical problem is there, then they will identify what are the variables which you are supposed to solve, then make reasonable assumptions and approximation, because if you take everything intact, then the governing equation will be of your second order, nonlinear, multivariable, and transient. So that will be a little bit tough to solve. So just because we want to have a solution which is much more realistic, at the same time quite easy to solve, so we'll put some reasonable assumptions so that we will reduce our governing equation to some sort of a form where we can solve them easily. So we will make some approximation, that no doubt, but the final result will be closer to that of your actual result. It's not far away from the actual. And whatever assumptions we will make there, that is also guided by some sort of physics of the problem. That means we won't violate the physics as such, but whatever thumb rule or whatever assumption we'll impose, we'll find that those assumptions are nearly matching to that of your real life problems. Then we will apply the physical laws. That is, every physics is abided by some mathematical expressions which is given in form of a law. So we will use those laws, which will give you a set of laws. Then those set of laws, either it will be in differential form or it may be in integral form, depending upon the concept which you are using to solve them. Then once you get a set of governing equation, then with that governing equation, we want to get the variable values. So what we have to do, we have to solve those governing equations. So there are different techniques are there. Either you can go by analytical technique, that is purely mathematically, or you can go by computational techniques, that is numerical methods. So we have to decide, or you have to apply some numerical or analytical method to solve this governing equation. But whenever you are solving the governing equation, you have to apply certain boundary conditions and initial conditions which are applicable to the original physics of the problem. Then from that we will get the solution of the problem. So that is how in generally we will solve a problem of heat transfer using mathematical modeling. That is what analytical method. Now coming to the forms of energy. Now here varieties of energy forms are written there, and I do believe that you are aware of all of them from thermodynamics point of view. That is, energy can exist in variety of forms such as thermal, mechanical, kinetic, potential, electrical, magnetic, chemical, nuclear. But this is not the end of the list. You may have different other forms of energy also. So if you sum them together, what we say is that is what the total energy of the system. So that is what in generally we are representing total energy. The sum of all microscopic forms of energy is called your internal energy. So if you sum all the microscopic energy, then we term them as internal energy, which is there already there in your thermodynamics. So internal energy may be viewed as sum of kinetic and potential energy of your molecules. Sensible heat is because of your temperature, so which is comes because of your molecular collision. So that's why it is some sort of your kinetic energy of the molecules. That means what? If you increase the temperature, then the molecular vibration will increase, then the kinetic energy will increase, then the sensible heat will increase. If you decrease the temperature, kinetic energy will reduce, then the sensible heat will reduce. Latent heat is some sort of your phase change. If there is a phase change is occurring, then the energy associated with the phase change of the system is related to your latent heat. Chemical energy is associated with your bonding of your molecules, and nuclear energy is associated with the bonds within the nucleus of an atom itself. That's where we are fusion, all sorts of reaction comes into picture. Then comes your thermal energy. And what is the difference between your thermal energy and your that of your heat? Now, any substance which is having certain temperature is associated with certain quantity of energy, which is known as thermal energy. Or we can say that thermal energy is energy possessed by the body by virtue of its temperature. But whereas when this thermal energy is in transit or motion, then we say that is in heat. So still it is there within the system, we say it is thermal energy within the system. Once it crosses the boundary, we say that thermal energy is now moving out in the form of heat, or vice versa. If it comes also, that is also in the form of heat. Now I do believe this is known to you already, internal energy and enthalpy. Now in case of a closed system where there is only energy transfer, no mass transfer across the boundary of a system, in such cases, the system is stationary fluid, and energy associated with that fluid is known as your internal energy, or the energy of the system. But whereas in case of an open system, that is, mass is also crossing the boundary of your system as well as your energy, then in such cases, we define enthalpy as combination of your energy of the system plus PV, where P is the pressure, V is the volume of the specific volume of your particular substance. Then the sum of these two is known as your enthalpy. This U comes because of your energy associated with the fluid within the control volume, whereas this PV comes because of your flow work across the boundary. That means when there is a system, mass is crossing the system, then this flow work will come into picture. If there is no mass flow across a boundary, then this flow work won't come into picture, or flow energy will not come into picture. So sum of these two is known as your enthalpy. Now specific heat of gases, liquids and solids. Now this plays a vital role when you solve the real life problems, because in the beginning we said something called sensible heat, that is nothing but the energy possessed by the body by virtue of its temperature, and the magnitude of energy is a function of your specific heat. That means if your specific heat is on a higher side for the same mass, then the energy holding capacity for that particular substance will be on a higher side. So most of the time, since our target is being an engineer, we want to transfer heat with minimum effort, means minimum mass flow rate. So if you want to transfer a good amount of energy with minimum mass flow rate, then we have to select something which is having a higher value of specific heat. So specific heat will depend upon the particular substance what we are selecting, and that too, that specific heat changes with temperature also. So the energy required to raise the temperature of unit mass of a substance by 1 degree is known as your specific heat. There are two types of specific heat which we are defining, that is specific heat at constant volume, specific heat at constant pressure. The specific heat of a substance in general depends on two independent properties such as temperature and pressure. So the low pressure, all real gases approach ideal gas behavior, and therefore their specific heat depend on temperature only. That means if you are dealing with low pressure, then you can say that specific heat is a function of temperature only. Assuming that only, we will deal all your heat transfer problems, saying that we are dealing at low pressure and your specific heat is your function of your temperature only. And that too, it may be a higher order polynomial variation, but we will assume most of the time as a linear variation only. So this is what your units of your specific heat, and change of internal energy du is written as Cv into dt, and dH is written as Cp into dt. So change in internal energy and change in enthalpy. So there comes your Cv, that is what we say that change of internal energy per unit temperature rise. This is change of enthalpy per unit temperature rise is your specific heat at constant pressure. In case of your incompressible substance, that is whose specific volume does not change, you cannot compress that, so the volume won't change for a given mass, so specific volume will remain constant. So a substance whose specific volume does not change with temperature and pressure, we say that as your incompressible substance. The constant volume and constant pressure specific heats are identical for incompressible substance. There is no change as Cp and Cv values in case of your incompressible substance. That is what the case of a solid. And for some of the liquids where it is assumed to be nearly incompressible. The specific heat of incompressible substance depend on temperature only. Here also, since it is independent of pressure and volume, so here it is changes with temperature only. So then comes your energy transfer. That is what the main objective of your heat transfer subject as such. Now, before we move further, I just want to know, is there anything, any doubt? Hello? Hello?
No, sir, clear.
Okay.